everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the 4-Star Chicago Sports Podcast. We are the Barely There Podcast, and I'm your boy, Sean Lugo. I'm sitting here with Kyle Duplessis. How you doing today, Kyle?
Doing all right, man. How are you?
Man, I'm all right, man. We recovered from Monday a little bit. I got to vent last night after having a few pops, so I feel a lot better today. We do have a couple things to discuss before we get into the guts of the Queens coming to the lakefront to take on our beloved Chicago Bears. Ladies and gentlemen, our wonderful sponsor, River Street Tavern in East Dundee, will be hosting a Black Wednesday party on November 27th. They'll have a late night menu. They're going to have a DJ. I believe, Kyle, are you going to be working?
Yeah.
He'll be working that Black Wednesday, so I don't know what we're going to do for a show, but we'll figure all that out as the time comes. Also, we'll remind you guys of all this towards the end of the show as well. Also, December 16th, Bears, Vikings, Monday Night Football, 4-Star Chicago Sports. We're going to put together our very first outing at River Street Tavern. Our gracious host, we're going to be giving away tons of prizes. We got this awesome Dan Hampton autograph photo we're going to be getting rid of. We have this DJ Moore making this spectacular catch against the Washington Redskins last year to get rid of. And, of course, Mr. Butthead himself, Kevin Butler, in a beautiful framed, matted frame for you guys to take home. We'll be raising money for Bears Care, Bears Charities, and hopefully watching our Chicago Bears, let's say, sweep the Minnesota Vikings this season. We'll get into that. We'll see how we feel about that. As we get going here, we always like to start off with our injury report going into the week. Our injury report this week, Amadaji did not practice. Bates is still on concussion protocol. Hicks didn't practice. The most concerning injury for me right now is DeAndre Swift with that groin injury. And Tevin Jenkins was back at practice in a limited fashion. And ladies and gentlemen, I just want to touch on this. I reached out to Dr. Jesse Morse here, and he sent me back a little thing on this DeAndre Swift injury. He's dealing with what's called an abductor strain. This is a mild tweak. That means he could likely play in Week 12. However, if this is a true grade 1 strain, then Week 12 is truly up in the air and risky. These are usually 10 to 14 days to heal, and they have a very high rate of re-injury. If it's a grade 2 strain and it turns out, he says this is going to be likely an injury that takes him a few weeks to recover from. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Dr. Jesse Morse, for that information. And let's hope that it's not too severe. And we do have DeAndre Swift, because no DeAndre Swift changes my perception of this game just a little bit. But ladies and gentlemen, last year, the Bears and the Vikings played to a split, winning on each other's home fields. The Bears lost in Chicago 19-13. They went down to Minnesota, or I should say up to Minnesota, and won in their most recent matchup 12-10. So as we get into this, a couple of other transactions before we get into this, the team elevated Colin Johnson from their practice squad to the active roster. And the Chicago Bears will be wearing their 1936 throwback striped helmets with the white striped sleeves. These are exactly what they are. So they're throwing back to 36. Apparently, they really like these against Minnesota because they wore them last year, or a couple of years ago, I should say, not last year. So we got to look forward to some 1936 throwback jerseys. Kyle.
They also re-signed Hard Knocks star Adrian Colbert as well.
They did.
So it's sounding like Elijah Hicks is probably not going to play on Sunday.
Yes.
And obviously Jaquan Brisker is on IR, so he will not. So the Bears will be on their third string safety against the Vikings.
Hey, we got Darius in the house, Bruce in the house, man. Thanks for spending a little time with us. We greatly appreciate y'all, man, hanging out with us for just a couple of minutes while we break down this Bears and Vikings matchup on that. So as we get into this, Kyle, as I was saying, I was very confident that on Monday that the Chicago Bears could win this football game, and I liked Thomas Brown's game plan in which he put out against the Green Bay Packers, the quick passes. It's the perfect way to be able to beat this rapid blitz that's going to be coming at us from Mr. Brian Flores this weekend. I do have a major concern, though, without DeAndre Swift in this game. Kyle, give me a little bit how you feeling before we cut the guts up. How you feeling about this game, and how are you feeling about it if we don't have DeAndre Swift? What's going on, Scotty, by the way? Thanks for showing up, man. Appreciate you.
Well, first and foremost, Sean, I've been pretty vocal in my opinion of the Minnesota Vikings. I think they're overrated. I think eventually, like I said, people all season, they will fall back down to earth. I think a lot of people are like, well, they're still winning games. Yeah, but I mean, you got to look at the competition as well. The Vikings are beating up on pretty terrible teams. The 2 weeks they lost back-to-back, they did not look like a good football team. They really didn't look like a good football team against the Jaguars. Sean, what was the final score of that game?
12-7.
Yeah, I mean, they beat the Jaguars 12-7. Remember, guys, that's the same team that Caleb Williams threw 4 touchdowns and absolutely exploded against. They're not a good football team. The Vikings should have beaten them more handily than that. But I mean, yeah, Sean, anytime you lose any of your starters, particularly a star in DeAndre Swift, it's not good. It's certainly not good. You're going into the game unhealthy to begin with, and then you lose a guy like that. But I don't want to be too hasty. You know, they said that there's a possibility he does play in this game, so I'm not going to count him out. And if he doesn't, Sean, it's time for Roschon Johnson to step up and become the 4th round pick he was last year. And I think Roschon Johnson's looked good when he's been given the opportunity. It's maybe this Sunday we'll get to see what happens when he's the full-time back.
Yeah, I got to give a shout out because I'm going to talk about this guy right here because he stole my heart this weekend like he did, I think, a lot of Chicago Bears fans. This game plan, we look like a competent football team for the first time in a long time out there. And I know everyone says, Jacksonville and Carolina, we looked really good. Man, we should look good, and everyone should look good against those bum squads. We went up against the top 10 defense and looked like a competent football team. That's what I'm talking about. This wasn't a bottom feeder. That team up north is very good up front. They have a good secondary. We didn't blow the doors off offensively, but we moved the ball. He had a lot of great concepts. Compress the formations. We were able to use the flats. Used a lot of whip routes. A lot of different designs we just haven't seen from the Chicago Bears. So going into this game, I believe, and I forgot to look this up, but I believe it was around 71%. Some are right in there. Brian Flores blitzed the Bears last year. And we know Brian Flores is no dummy. He's going to be doing it this week again. He's going to be bringing the house as much as he can against a rookie quarterback. So for me, I love the game plan. And my question is, Kyle, from your perspective, do you think that Thomas Brown can implement the same game plan? And do you think that game plan that he put in against the Green Bay Packers would be effective for us to beat the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday in the late one?
I mean, there's so many different things to pull apart there. I mean, Sean, first of all, the Bears scored 19 points last week, and as much as great as their offense looked, and they did look a lot better with Thomas Brown rather than Shane Waldron, but they scored 19 points, which would have meant they would have lost to every single team in the NFL except for one last week. So I mean, it's not like as nice as it was to see Caleb Williams look like an actual NFL quarterback and not getting his head knocked off on every play. Obviously, Thomas Brown is starting to cater this offense to his rookie quarterback. And ultimately, that's the goal. Should be the goal every single week is to see Caleb Williams improve and get better and develop and become the franchise quarterback we all expect him to become. But I mean, with the Sean, you said last year that the Vikings blitzed the Bears 71% of the time. Yeah, there's a big difference between Justin Fields and Caleb Williams. If the Vikings do that and the Bears do play the right style of offense and get the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands quickly, slant routes, curl routes, out routes, and run the ball and commit to running the ball, that could bite the Vikings in the ass, because if Caleb Williams starts getting that ball out of his hands quickly, Sean, we could sit here and talk about the Vikings pass rush all day, but we could also sit here and talk about how porous their secondary is. And if Caleb Williams can get the ball out of his hand quickly, guys like DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Roman Dunze are going to get open against this team. It's not a good secondary. It's actually probably one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. If they keep blitzing, and Caleb keeps throwing over the top of them, the Bears going to win this game. So I don't think you're going to see the 70% blitz package that you saw against Justin Fields last year. I think the Vikings have more respect for Caleb Williams than they did Justin Fields.
And I do. I think this is going to be a very, very big test for Thomas Brown and Caleb Williams to come up with a game plan. The Minnesota Vikings pressure the 6th highest rate in the league right now. The last time the Bears faced a team that high was against Houston. They're 10th, and Caleb was pressured on 40% of his dropbacks and took 7 sacks in that game. That was week 2. He's had a lot more experience under his belt. So I feel really good, especially having a competent.
Well, and Sean, you're talking about with Will Anderson there in Houston and Danielle Hunter, you're talking about 2 of the best pass rushers in the NFL. I mean, they're both top 5 pass rushers in the NFL. As much as I like the Vikings defensive line, and they do have good players there, they are not Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. They're not. As a matter of fact, if the Vikings would not have let Danielle Hunter leave in free agency and he would have stayed in Minnesota, I'd be a lot more worried about the defensive line and those blitz packages than I am right now. Like I said, if you play certain quarterbacks who are smart and get the ball out of their hands quickly, blitzing 70% of the time can kill you. And that's why every team in the NFL doesn't do it. People always ask you, like, well, I understand why every team in the NFL doesn't just blitz the quarterback every play, because if you can't get there quick enough, he will tear you apart. And Caleb Williams is capable of doing that. He's a much better quarterback. I should say he's a much better passer than Justin Fields was. Correct. Minnesota Vikings are I expect to see more balance. I expect them to see the Vikings kind of mess with Caleb Williams' head a little bit, try to kind of confuse him. They're gonna show a lot of blitzes, they're gonna show a lot, and then they're gonna back off and drop into zones. And that's what really screws rookie quarterbacks, is when they go drop into those zone defenses when he's expecting them to blitz. That's what gets them in trouble. That's when you see rookie quarterbacks throwing interceptions, because they didn't expect certain guys to be in certain positions. But Sean, I mean, is this a winnable game for the Bears? Yes. The Bears against the Minnesota Vikings. Yes, I think if you look at the 2 teams on paper, the Bears are every bit as good as the Minnesota Vikings. The problem I have is it's the Bears, man. I mean, it's, and I know it's just a cliche, easy way out, but this is the Bears. I mean, it's like Brendan talked about last week. You watch any other team in the NFL about to kick a 46-yard field goal to win the game, you're like, oh, that team's going to win the game. They're going to kick a 46-yard field goal and win the game. When they were lining up for that field goal on Sunday against Green Bay, Sean, you and I looked at each other and we're like, how are they going to screw this up? There's in some way, shape, or form, they're going to screw this up. And they did. They did. I mean, it's not like we're just being pessimistic because we're Bears fans. They always screw it up. They always find a way to screw it up. So,
to Kyle Harris's point here, I don't know. I think the Vikings are kind of taking a step back. I think they are going to try and pressure him, but I also think that if he's getting that ball out, and against the Packers, they said it was the fastest in the league at the time. It was 2.09 seconds. I mean, if he's getting that out and he's making completions, he's going to be. They might be getting chunk plays.
Well, they would. And Kyle, if that happens, if the Bears are on the same game plan they did last week and it's working, if they're getting the ball out of his hands quickly, slant routes. Did you guys see the Bears ran a slant route for like the first time in my entire life last week? The Bears ran a slant route. Did you see that? The same play that Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers used to kill the Bears on for years. The Bears started running slant routes last week. I've never seen the Bears run a slant route, not to my memory. I can't remember the last time they did. If they continue to do that and it's working, the Vikings are going to back off. They're going to back off, because if not, Caleb Williams is going to throw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. At some point, they're going to have to back off Caleb Williams. Then you could start committing more to the run. If you can get that Vikings defensive line just to back off a little bit, get the linebackers to back up a little bit, then you can start running the ball a little bit. I mean, it's going to be a very interesting game. Kyle Harris sounds like he's super confident in the Vikings to beat the Bears, but or he says they were going to smother Williams. Be careful there, Kyle. Thomas Brown is not Shane Waldron. He's not just, if Caleb Williams gets sacked 5 times in the first 2 drives, he's not just going to be like, well, let's just keep doing the same thing over and over and maybe something will change. It's not going to happen. Thomas Brown will adjust. He will adjust.
Yeah, I need, the one thing that I am going in here is you probably see some max protect in this game. Caleb Williams under pressure this season, 41.7% completion rate. That's 38 out of 40, and 4.8 yards per attempt, which is 33rd out of 40. The Vikings are coming in with the league's best run defense, the most interceptions in the NFL. They rank 3rd in sacks and 4th in points allowed. So this is going to be a challenge, but I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I mean, if you just go back to last year, they were both low-scoring, competitive football games, and I still think that's what's going to come out of this game here today.
Yeah, I
or,
do
or,
expect.
excuse
I
me, on
do
Sunday.
expect it. I do expect it to be a close game, Sean, for sure. I mean, the
Yes.
Bears and Vikings always play each other close, always. Even when one team is significantly better than the other team. The Vikings were a better team than the Bears last year, and it was still both games. The Bears won the second game in Minnesota, and that's after Justin Fields fumbled twice in the fourth quarter, and the Bears still found a way to win that game. So, I don't know. A lot of people I hear talking this week have a lot of confidence in this Vikings team. I think Sam Darnold, the last 4 weeks, a month of the season, has started to look like Sam Darnold. Sean, correct me if I'm mistaken, but they do not. He has not looked good. How many touchdowns has Sam Darnold thrown in the last month?
I think he had.
In the first month, he threw like 12. In the last month, he's thrown like 4.
Yeah, I think he had 2 last week. You know, the biggest difference with Sam Darnold right now is he's taking a lot more sacks. He's starting to turn into Sam Darnold. He's not making smart plays. He's turning the ball over. You know, and this is one thing I thought was going to happen from the beginning of the year, but Kevin O'Connell obviously employed really good game plans for him, and he was successful in them. But I think the Bears are going to give him problems. The thing for me is the same problem, and we talked about this stat in our group chat earlier, Kyle, was that blitz sack. That this guy, last week, Jordan Love was, 50% against the blitz?
He's the second worst quarterback in the NFL under pressure, and the Bears blitzed him 3 times.
3 times.
That's
my only concern. That it's like the attention to detail and situational awareness. I just don't know, and it could cost the Bears every game the rest of the year. I just feel as though Thomas Brown, what he did and how he compressed the offense again, and he opened things up and was hitting the ball out quickly. I just think this is the greatest formula to beat a team that pressures you so much. Because,
well, Sean, you're focusing on offense to Thomas Brown. What about the Bears defense? I mean, Sean, if you're going to give up 4 catches to 150 yards to Christian Watson, what do you think Justin Jefferson's going to do to the Chicago? I mean, if the Bears continue to give up these 50, 60-yard passes, Justin Jefferson's going to have 460 yards and 7 touchdowns against them because he can catch anything. That guy can catch anything.
I will tell you this, man, and this is one of my bullet points about Justin Jefferson. What are we in? We're going into week 11. Is this week 11 or 12?
Mm-hmm.
It's week 12.
12. Yeah.
Justin Jefferson hasn't got a touchdown in 6 weeks, man.
Yeah, but Sean, how many times have we talked about the Bears are always the team to get teams off of like the whenever teams play the Bears, they beat the hell out of them, and then they start going on these rolls. The Packers did it last year. After they beat the Bears, they went on this huge run. Like the Bears are always a team it's like a get right game for every other team in the NFL. They are, man. Like I've seen so many times where teams come in and beat the Bears, and then they win like 4 in a row after beating the Bears. The Vikings offense scares me. That's the problem. The Bears defense is banged up. I think they're even more banged up now. I think you're going to see. I don't think Elijah Hicks is going to play in this game. So now you're you're without your 2 starting safeties because Quan Brisker's already in IR, and you're going to be on your 3rd string safety. They're already down Andrew Billings. I think Montez Sweat is playing hurt. Daryl Taylor is probably playing hurt. He's been on the injury report for the last 3 weeks. They seem to me like they've already kind of given up on the coaching staff, and Tremaine Edmonds is not the player we thought he was. I mean, the defense is starting for the Bears is starting to crumble a little bit. I mean, they're still in the top 10 in a lot of statistical categories, but I mean, Sean, Christian Watson was Tom Brady's player of the week in the NFL. I mean, Christian Watson. Christian Watson has done absolutely nothing all season, and the Bears let him go 4 receptions for 150 yards. Justin Jefferson, if they play the same style of defense, Justin Jefferson he'll kill them.
That's soft coverage. Yeah,
he'll kill them. He'll kill them.
I'll tell you this. I was thinking about this as I was looking up because I had to look up because I bet the last 2 weeks because it's been so long that Justin Jefferson hasn't had a touchdown. So I figure he has to catch one. And 3 weeks in a row, he's made me a loser. So man, do I do it this week again because he's? I don't
like wide receiver anytime touchdown scores. The only time I'll do that is if somebody's playing a team that's given up a touchdown to the number wide receiver every week this season, something like a stat like that where it's almost like a guarantee. Like last week, Amon-Ra St. Brown was a great anytime touchdown scorer because he scored a touchdown 6 straight now. And they were playing. They were playing Tennessee. Who were they playing last week?
They played the Jaguars.
Yeah. The Lions did? Yeah.
They've won
And
like 57-3 or
yeah,
something.
and the Jaguars have been one of the worst secondaries in the NFL all season. I mean, that's a good time to take an anytime touchdown score. You're talking about taking an anytime touchdown score.
Scotty.
You're talking about taking Justin Jefferson as an anytime touchdown score against Jalen Johnson, man. That's no gimme. That is
It's not.
certainly not an easy bet.
It's
Jalen
not.
Johnson's one of the best cover corners in the NFL. And you know what? I think Jalen Johnson's getting kind of pissed off about people saying that he's having a down season and he hasn't been that great this year and he fell down against Christian Watson. I expect Jalen Johnson to come out and have a great game on Sunday.
Well, I will tell you, if we talk about the Vikings offense, they've been trending in the wrong direction since about week 8. They've dropped to 20th in EPA, and for people who don't know what EPA is, it's expected points added. It's a metric used in football to measure the value of each play by its effect on the offense's likelihood to score. So the offense that was up, this stat basically tells you it's been dropping and dropping and dropping, and they haven't been scoring at the rate that they have. And as where I'm going with this is the Bears' biggest strength on defense is their red zone efficiency. They are only allowing teams to score at 40.6% on their trips into the red zone. My friends, that is the best mark in the NFL.
Well, Sean, and if you remember correctly, the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, the Vikings were in every top 10 in every offensive statistical category, almost every single one. I mean, they were scoring a lot. They were winning games handedly, easily, and they were playing good opponents.
Hey, Kyle, remember when we were talking like the first 5 weeks, I believe, and we said they were up on like every opponent by 3 touchdowns before the second quarter?
Yeah.
It was insane.
And, people could say what they want about that. I think it was the Rams game where Sam Darnold was sacked in the end zone by his face mask. But you know what? They were not going to win that game. Even if Sam Darnold, even if they called a 15-yard penalty and they were then at the 15-yard line instead of the 16-yard line instead of the 1-yard line, they were not going to drive 85 yards and win that game. That wasn't going to happen. So you can make excuses all you want. I mean, I'll tell you this: the total offense for the Vikings through the first 3 weeks was like second place. Total passing yards was like third place. Total rushing yards was like fourth place. You know where they are now? Total offense, 15th in the NFL, 341 yards per game. Total passing yards, 13th at 224 yards per game. Total rushing yards, 19th at 116 yards per game. So they don't run the ball well at all. Scoring offense, they score 24.4 points per game. So they're still 10th, still top 10 in the NFL. Red zone offense, 14th at 56%. And third down percentage, 12th, 39. But all those numbers have dropped since the beginning of the season. Like they've gone down consistently almost every single week after excluding the first 3 weeks of the season. So the Vikings have started to turn into the team that we thought the Vikings were going to be. Now, I'll tell you this. I don't think the Vikings will make the playoffs. And even if they do, because they piled up so many wins so early, they are a guaranteed first round knockout. Just like they were, remember a few years ago, Sean, where they couldn't lose a game if you think like every team they played was giving them the game. And then they got to the playoffs and the Giants beat the shit out of them. And they didn't just beat them, they beat the crap out of them. I mean, here's the problem, Sean. This is what scares me. Here's the Bears offense statistical.
What's
rankings.
up, Brando?
29th and 290 yards per game total. Passing yards, 30th and 174 yards per game. Rushing yards, 22nd, 114 yards per game.
Mm-hmm.
Scoring offense, 22nd at 19 points per game. Yeah, are great in the red zone. They're 9th in the red zone. It's almost 61%. That's amazing.
You're talking about the Bears, correct?
Yes, the Bears offense. Okay. And then third down conversion rate, Sean, they are ranked 30th out of 32 at 31.9.
Can we put an asterisk next to that because they looked a lot better on third down without Shane Waldron?
Yeah, and you know what? They were 32nd. They were 32nd. Now they're 30th. So the Bears are moving in the right direction. This is a winnable game, and you're at home. The Bears are a much better team at home. We've talked about this for weeks, guys. They average 30 points per game at home, or now it's probably dropped down to like 22 or 24. On the road, they average like 14 now. 13 is it dropped down to on the road. So, I mean, this is a favorable matchup for the Bears. And by all accounts, it's supposed to be a little chilly outside, and the Vikings play in a dome. So it's not like the Vikings are playing outside every single week and playing in the cold. The Bears are used to this. They live here. They're used to it. It doesn't bother them. They play outside at Soldier Field all the time. It doesn't bother them.
I'm gonna run through a couple of key stats here that I dug up. We've been complaining this year about first quarter scoring. So the Bears have scored on 12.5% of their drives in the first quarter of the season, which is third worst in the league. The Vikings defense has allowed 13.3% of their opponents drives in the first quarter this season to score. That's second best. The Bears have
That's not good.
no. The Bears have had 41 sacks this season. Excuse me, Caleb's been sacked 41 times this season, second most in the NFL. The Vikings have got after the quarterback and sacked him 35 times, tied for third most in the NFL. The Vikings, on the other side, have given up 27 sacks, which is 11th in the league. The Vikings have scored on 52% of their drives in the first quarter this season. That is, my friends, the best in the NFL, and that is that big chunk of that first half of the season. The Bears defense, to counter that, has allowed scores on 40% of opponents' drives in the first quarter. Ladies and gentlemen, that's fourth worst in the NFL. They did it last week against Green Bay, but they kind of settled in, so let's not get discouraged if they scoot in that opening drive. The Vikings have also run successful plays on 29% of their rush attempts in the red zone this season, which is worse than the NFL. League average is 46%. And then that goes back to what we were just saying. The Bears are the best red zone defense in the league. So this, again, I like the under 39 points in this game. The Vikings have been sacked on 16%, and this is key because this is how the Bears can close this game out. The Vikings have been sacked on 16% of their pass attempts, 11 of 69 in the fourth quarter. It's worse than the NFL. It's league average. So it's way below league average. So the Bears have an opportunity here. Again, this is what we said, attention to detail. The Bears coaches should be looking at this stuff and saying, here we go. This is how we do it. The Vikings defense has also allowed 33 of 159, which is 21% of first downs on the ground this year. It's the lowest in the NFL. League average is 38%. So there's some things here that you do want to do. There's some things you don't want to do against this team. And we haven't talked about the one X factor, Kyle. And I want to ask you, because this guy's terrorized the Chicago Bears for years on that hated team up north. Aaron Jones is averaging about 4.4 yards per carry this season, and I think they're going to lean on him in this game. What do you think about Aaron Jones and the Bear, and this being a key factor for me in the Bears winning this football game and shutting him down?
Well, Sean, I hope they do, because once again, you're talking about, when you're saying Aaron Jones is average, you're talking about the beginning of the season. The last few weeks, the Vikings have not been good at running the ball. And
correct.
To be honest with you, Sean, like I said earlier, like I just said, their total rushing offense is 19th in the NFL, 116.4 yards per game. That's not good either. For the NFL, running for 116 yards, rushing for 116 yards per game is not good. That's not good. So if they do commit to Aaron Jones and the Bears find a way to shut down the run, Sean, my key to winning this game for the Chicago Bears is very simple, on defense at least. You have to eliminate those big plays, Sean. You have to.
Yes.
You have to eliminate the big plays. You cannot. If they allow what Christian Watson did last week to Justin Jefferson, they're going to lose. There's no doubt about it. I mean, look at Jordan Love's stats last week, Sean. He was 13 for 17 for 261 yards. You know what he was if you took Christian Watson's productivity out of all of his catches and yards out of that game?
He sucked.
You know what Jordan Love was? If without those 4 completions, he would have been 9 of 13 for 111 yards. That's what his stat line would have been if Christian Watson didn't. And you know what? Like I said, that pass from Jordan Love in a double coverage with the Christian Watson cut. I mean, any other team in the NFL picks that pass off. That was a terrible pass. And, you know, if you watch the QB school, he talks about that. He's like, this is a terrible pass from Jordan Love. It shouldn't have been thrown. It was a desperation throw, and the Bears failed to intercept it or knock it down. But ultimately, that was a terrible pass. And if he does that, most weeks he does that, it's going to be intercepted. And like I said, I've talked about this with Kyle Harris numerous times. He's a gunslinger. But Justin Jefferson, it's much tougher to stop with those 50-50 balls, man. He is an absolute stuff. He's the best receiver in the NFL. He's the best receiver in the NFL. Yeah, he's the best receiver in the NFL. So if they give him the same coverage that Christian Watson was getting last week, if they fall down, if they're not getting to the ball quick enough, they're a little bit late, he's going to absolutely destroy them. The Bears have to limit downfield plays. They have to make. Remember, Sean, in the beginning of the season when the Bears defense looked a lot better, they were doing the bend don't break style defense. They were making these teams do 10, 12, 14 play drives, hoping they would make a mistake somewhere driving down the field. The Green Bay Packers didn't do that last week. They were having 4, 5, 6 yard drive or 6-play drives and gaining 80 yards in 4 plays. You can't do that. You're not going to win in the NFL doing that. And like I said, Justin Jefferson's a lot better than Christian Watson, and Jordan Addison's better than Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs. The Bears have when it comes to wide receivers, it's going to be a much tougher week than it was last week for sure, no doubt about it.
And Tucker Kraft wasn't really involved in the game, and he's been a big part of the Packers. And now we have T.J. Hawkinson that's coming back this week. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts for the Bears to have to deal with in this Minnesota.
Yeah, Sean, I was going to say earlier when you said you like the under 39, I don't know about that, man. I wouldn't be surprised at all if these teams start scoring on each other at some point in this game. If they start, the defense, the secondaries of these teams right now just aren't playing well. The Bears last week, their secondaries didn't play well. They're on their third string safety now, Sean. From Jaquan Brisker to Elijah Hicks, now they're going to have court. I mean, you can't keep losing players and expect to have the same productivity. They keep getting these injuries. Eventually, they're going to kill them.
I'm looking this up right here. Addison is not better than Reed. You're nuts.
Addison is better than Reed. Addison is a better wide receiver than Reed. Jaden Reed's a very good gadget player. He's good at the end arounds, rushes, and stuff like that. You're talking about a downfield receiver, Kyle, a guy who can catch passes downfield, 40, 50 yards downfield, score big time touchdowns. Jordan Addison is better than Jaden Reed. Just look at the statistics. Jaden Reed is a gadget player. Jordan Addison's a wide receiver.
One thing I want to give some flowers to, and I was going to do this at the beginning, and I completely forgot to do this, but we picked on this man for quite some time. But since week 5, amongst centers, Coleman Shelton has had an 83 PFF grade in pass blocking, which is second, an 80.7 true pass set grade, which is second. He's allowed 3 pressures since week 5, which is second. And he's had a 71.6 run block grade, which is 11th best. We've picked on this guy for a little while, and all I have to say is when someone steps up and changes their game, we got to give them their flowers. And I'm giving Coleman Shelton his flowers because
Sean, we picked on him early when he was struggling. We haven't picked on him a lot in recent weeks since he started playing well. I mean, I think Dustin went out of his way to say that Coleman Shelton has been the best offensive lineman for the Bears in the last 5 weeks. He brought that up.
Did he? I might have missed it.
Yeah, he was talking about how he's been performed very well in the recent weeks. And you know what? I think we also, in general, Sean, the offensive line has not played as bad this year as people probably think they are when we're talking about them on this podcast. They're not. They're actually, if you go look at their stats, statistically, they're ranked in the middle in run blocking, and they're ranked like middle back, like 20, 21st, 22nd. And pass blocking.
When we did our season preview, did we not say that's exactly where we expected this offensive line to be? Middle of the road.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for the injuries, I think they'd probably have finished. I mean, Sean, no team in the NFL is going to play well without their 2 starting tackles. That just doesn't. That's why they're there. They're there to protect the quarterback. So yeah, the Patriots got 9 sacks without Darnell Wright and Braxton Jones. The Bears still need to. You know what the problem with the Bears offensive line is, Sean? There's nobody who stands out. There's no superstar on the Bears offensive line. That's the problem with the Bears offensive line. Almost every good offensive line in the NFL, like when Jason Kelce was on the Eagles, you talk about Sewell on the Lions, Lane Johnson for years, all these guys Trent Williams, there's always that guy with the attitude where the rest kind of follow suit. Like he will just beat the shit out of you physically, and the rest of the offensive line kind of follow suit. He can almost carry a whole half of the line by himself. So those guys can focus on other things. The Bears don't have that guy. They just don't. They don't have that guy.
Well, the last 2 guys we had like that were Olin Kreutz and my man, Big Cat James Williams. We need to find a couple of those guys to get this thing back in order. And I agree, Scott. It's time to get some stars, damn it. Enough of these second-rate superstars and washed up linemen and pet projects. It's time to go out there, hammer down some studs, and get this thing working. Give Caleb some time, because I think if Caleb has time, he's going to tear the NFL apart. He's been really, really good, man, and he's only going to get better. So, The one thing I will say, and this is one stat too, Kyle, that I was talking about in order to beat this blitz. I think it was between the tackles with Thomas Brown this week. They had 8 carries for 16 yards. Outside the tackles, they had 21 carries for 114 yards. If that were to happen this week against Minnesota, I think they're going to beat the blitz they'll have them on their heels. But the one part that's intricate to that would be the health and play of one DeAndre Swift. So, and for you guys, really quick, who weren't here at the beginning, he is dealing with a groin, and I'm just going to recap it really quick because there wasn't a lot of people here. He has what is known as an abductor strain, and they're saying it's mild. However, if it's a true grade 1, he could. It's a very high risk of re-injury, and they're saying he should probably sit out. If it's a grade 2 strain, he should be out for weeks. It does seem, though, it is unlikely, and that was from Dr. Jesse Morse. I appreciate him putting that out there for us to understand what's going on, because this guy is such an intricate part to what the Chicago Bears do. I'm not saying that Roschon Johnson can't do it, but the one thing I do know is I don't believe Roschon Johnson has that speed to the outside. And if DeAndre Swift is out, I expect a lot of sweeps, end arounds, going to DJ Moore to try and compensate for this. Maybe even some tosses. You can use him as an athlete out of the backfield, a halfback. What do they call him? Not a true tailback, but they have to find a way to get that defense on the heels to alleviate the pressure. If they drop Caleb back, and the one thing, Kyle, we didn't talk about on Monday, the rhythm in which he married the run and pass offense together in this football game against Green Bay. If he can actually do that again, I think the Bears are going to have a really good chance on Sunday on the lakefront. I mean, the formula to beating a blitz is, that attacks you like this, is getting the ball out of your hands quickly. It is so key. I trust Thomas Brown more than I trust Matt Eberflus. I'm more worried about Eberflus blowing this game in the gosh darn fourth quarter than I am anything else.
Kyle, Sean, real quick. Kyle, if you want me to dig into this, we can. Kyle Harris just puts the statistics. First of all, he doesn't mention the fact that Jordan Addison hasn't played in every game this season. That's fun. That's very convenient for Kyle's argument. He has not played in every single game this season. Jordan Addison has not. Jaden Reed has. But Jordan Addison has 2 catches, 40-plus yards this season for 350 yards. Reed has 5 for 40-plus, 650. I'm going to say this again, Kyle. Listen very carefully. It's a very black and white sentence. Are you listening? Jaden Reed is a gadget player, so he catches a 5-yard pass and, yes, takes 40. I'm talking about downfield plays against the Chicago Bears. The Christian Watson Hail Mary play, the 50-yard pass on the run by Jordan Love. Jordan Addison is much better getting open downfield, 40, 50, 60 yards downfield than Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed is the type of player where you throw him a screen pass and expect him to run 50 yards and a touchdown. That's what Jaden Reed is. And
I agree.
I'm not going to compare their yards, 350 yards, 650 yards, because Jordan Addison has not played in every game this season. So that's not fair.
Weeks 2 and 3.
Yeah, and Jaden Reed is not. And you know what? For a guy, Kyle, I'm a guy who's defended Jaden Reed on this podcast. I've said start him. I even said he was at one point the best player on the Packers. Kyle, he has disappeared. He had 2 catches for 23 yards last week, 2 for 55 2 weeks ago, 2 for 10 against Houston, 2 for 9 against Indianapolis. I thought Jaden Reed was going to be better than he is, to be honest with you, Kyle. I'm glad you brought it up. We could talk about Jaden Reed and the Packers disappointing players all year. I thought Jordan Love was going to be better than he is. I thought Jaden Reed was going to be better than he is. I thought Christian Watson was going to be better than he is. I thought Romeo Dow was going to be better than he is. The Packers are starting to look like a very average football team. And these draft picks that everybody keeps saying are amazing, these guys are not panning out to be the guys. Sean, when was Christian Watson taken? 3rd round? He was a 3rd round receiver, right?
No, I think it was a 2nd round pick.
A 2nd round? Do you think Christian Watson was worth the 2nd round pick?
I think he
might sucks, dude.
1st round pick, dude.
I think he's has the most drops in the NFL over the last 2 years, correct?
Well, he came in with the highest drop rate in college. He was over 13% when he came into the league.
It's the Packers look more and more beatable every week I watch them. Every single time I watch the Packers, they look more and more beatable to me. Packers fans just can't accept the fact that they don't have the Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre anymore, the perennial Hall of Famers, and they're not going to win every single game for the rest of they can't. It's killing them, and they just don't want to admit it.
Kyle Harris, I love you, man. Keep bringing it. I love the banter. Let's do it, babe.
Let's go. Let's go back and forth. Kyle can't even admit that the Bears were a better team on Sunday than the Green Bay Packers. They just couldn't kick a field goal.
Christian Watson was the 2nd round pick, number 34 overall out of North Dakota State.
Yeah, and what has Christian Watson done in the NFL? Almost nothing.
Christian Watson, I thought, was a bust coming out.
He is a bust. For a 2nd round pick, he's a bust.
Definitely not. But
2nd round pick, he's a bust. That's a bust, Sean.
That's a bust.
Where did they get Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs, who are both better than Christian Watson in the 4th and 5th rounds? 3rd and 5th round, I think it was. Romeo Dobbs and Jaden Reed. It was third and fifth round. They're both much, much better players than Christian Watson. I'm telling you, the last 3 years, the Green Bay Packers have done things that are not Green Bay Packers like at all. Signing Jordan Love to the biggest contract in NFL history for a quarterback after 7 good games. Signing Josh Jacobs, who I think is slightly above average running back in the NFL, to the second most money of any running back in free agency. Drafting Christian Watson, who had the highest drop rate in college, and they drafted him in the second round like he was going to be their number 1 receiver. You drafted a wide receiver in the second round, he's going to be your number 1 and number 2 receiver. Christian Watson, there's some weeks where I don't even hear his name. I watch Packers games where I'm like, is Christian Watson playing today? And like, yeah, he's playing. He's on the field. He's just useless.
Hey, Kyle,
Christian Watson wishes he could play the Bears every week.
Hey, Kyle, remember a couple of weeks ago when he was a must start and I picked him up because I needed somebody?
Yeah. All fanny experts were like, did he have a catch? 0 catches. I don't think he had a target. I don't think he had a target in that game. I don't think Christian Watson had a target in that game. And, like we talked about this earlier today, Sean, in the group text. So you said, go over the interception numbers for Jordan Love.
The what?
The interception numbers you sent out for Jordan Love. So he is tied for first in the NFL for the most interceptions, but he's thrown like 60 passes less than the 2 other guys.
I got that.
The same amount of interceptions than that. The Packers are just doing it's the Green Bay Packers I'm used to, who are just very smart, very well-run organization, do everything right, draft and develop, perfect, great, one of the best teams to draft and develop. This is not the same team anymore. It's not. It's not the same team anymore.
Jordan Love.
The Packers are a slightly above average football team.
Love, Mahomes, and Geno Smith all have 11 touchdowns, which is tied for the league.
Interceptions.
Sorry, excuse me. Thank you. Love has thrown 87 more passes than Mahomes, or fewer passes, and 117 fewer passes than Geno Smith, which means he's throwing interceptions at a much higher rate.
Yeah, I mean, that means Jordan Love's throwing like an interception every 7 passes, basically, is what he's doing.
It's not good.
Like I said, that pass in a double coverage against the Bears to Christian Watson, any other team in the NFL picks that pass off. The Bears are just, they find a way to screw up everything. The Bears find a way to screw up everything. But any other team in the NFL picks that pass off. And here's Dan Blakemore. Green Bay coming back down to earth would be a bright light in the otherwise terrible Bears fan season. I mean, Dan, go watch them. Go watch the Green Bay Packers. They're coming back down to earth. They are not the Aaron Rodgers Packers anymore. They're not the Brett Favre Packers anymore. They're the Jordan Love Packers. And Jordan Love is average. Christian Watson's average. Jaden Reed's good, but not great. He's not a number 1 receiver in the NFL. I mean, go look at the stats. It's you guys. This isn't me being a Packers hater. The Bears are worse than the Packers. They're a worse football team than the Packers. No doubt about it. But the Packers cannot beat the Detroit. Are not going to beat the Detroit Lions in the playoffs. That's not going to happen. Any Packers fan out there that thinks that's going to happen, you are absolutely insane.
Minnesota in Green Bay.
Yeah,
and torched.
And when Detroit beat Green Bay, they ran the ball down their throat. Like, dude, if you can't stop another team from running the ball, you cannot beat them because they're just going to run the ball every single play. If you can't stop them from running the ball, there's no way to beat them. They're just going to keep running the ball and running the ball and running. Yeah, and here you go right here, Sean. Ant Mass says Green Bay is scared after that game. Yeah, I mean, Green Bay Packers should not be. The Packers fans shouldn't be happy about that Bears game on Sunday. It wasn't a good game for the Packers. It wasn't a good game for either team.
And Ant Mass, you're about to find out if we are with you on the Bears winning this game because we broke down the stats. We got inside. We know Mr. Flores is going to bring the – and we have faith in our guy right here to run a competent offense to get the Chicago Bears back in the win column.
It was cool. It's cool to see that excitement out of a Bears coach. I haven't seen a Bears coach do anything like that in like 15 years, dude. He was fired up, man. He was fired up. I'm going to say this.
Last week was the first time in a while I saw competent football out of the Chicago Bears. They're 0-4 on the road. They're 4-2 at home. I think they're going to build some momentum. They're going to end this skid. They're going to upset the Minnesota Vikings in Chicago this Sunday in a low-scoring affair. I'm going to take the Chicago Bears, 20, the Minnesota Vikings, 17, just under the under of 39.
So what was your score? You were pretty close to the Packers game, weren't you? What was your score prediction against the Packers?
I had the Packers winning 24-17.
I mean, it's not terrible. It's pretty close. I mean, yeah, Sean, this one's tough for me. I really, really, really hate to keep picking the Bears because it just makes me look stupid.
I'm with you.
Just keep fooling me over and over and over again.
This is my last
honestly, I believe that if the Bears can keep Caleb Williams upright and get the ball out of his hands quickly, I think they can beat the Minnesota Vikings at home. I think the Bears will lose to them on the road, but at home, I think they're more capable of beating Minnesota Vikings.
Agree.
I hate doing this, Sean. I don't even like saying these words coming out of my mouth, but I'll pick the Bears to win 21-19. That will be my final score. But let me tell you this, guys. If the Bears lose this game, it would not surprise me in any way. When I say, like, I'll pick the Bears to win, I mean, like, I am basically 50-50, and I'm just leaning towards the home team. That's basically what I'm doing. It's like when you see Vegas give a 3-point spread. That means they're basically 50-50, and they're giving the 3-point spread to the home team. That's basically what they do.
And I'm going to be honest, Kyle, I'm with you 100%. I would not be surprised if they blow this game, and they blow this game because of coaching. I think Caleb Williams and Thomas Brown are going to get us there like they did last week. And we just have to hope that this idiot, Matt Eberflus, doesn't cost us another one. Because, ladies and gentlemen, as I say that, I have to go over what is truly a Chicago Bears stat. This came out from DraftKings. The Chicago Bears has a 71.3% chance to win during yesterday's game versus the Packers and lost. Over the past 3 seasons, they've blown 5 leads with a 90% or higher chance to win. The odds of losing those 6 are 1 in 68 million.
That's insane, dude. 1 in 68 million.
I mean, here's the games, guys.
They almost couldn't do that again if they tried. I mean, you couldn't do that if you tried. There's probably teams in the NFL that couldn't do this if they tried to do this. They probably could not do it.
I hate to drudge up these bad memories, but these 6 games are the only thing that actually freaking scare me about this weekend. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, Sean, I said it right away. I mean, it's unfortunate. I'm picking the Bears to win, but like it's going to be, if it comes down to like a final, you have to win on the final play of the game. Matt Eberflus is still the coach of the Chicago Bears, and they're going to screw it up. You know, they're going to screw it up. There's not even a doubt. It's not a question. It's not us being pessimistic, guys. It's us using our brain and being logical and following patterns. The odds, the Bears, if the Bears have a chance to win or screw it up, they are going to screw it up 100% of the time. 100% of the Bears. 100%. The Bears would have see. So the only way the Bears win this game to me is if they're up like 21-6, and then the Vikings are playing catch up the whole game, but they just don't have enough time. And there's no way for the Bears to screw it up. That's the only way the Bears win this game. If the Bears are in a position towards the end of the game where there's no way for them to screw it up, that's the only way they win this game. Because if there's an opportunity for them to screw this up, they're going to screw it up.
I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but Matt Eberflus again today, saying when he was asked about moving the ball over to the right hash where Cario Santos is comfortable kicking the ball, and he says, yeah, I wouldn't do anything different. His stupidity just continues to just rain out, man. It's so stupid. He's so stupid. It's just Scotty says he just. So, Scotty, are you throw your score in there, Scott? Are you saying the Chicago Bears are going to lose to the Queens at home, my friend?
Here, look, Dan Blakemore says, let's be honest, guys. There won't be one more game the rest of the season we'll be able to say with confidence the Bears can win. How depressing. Yeah. That's kind of become the story of our lives, right? I mean, that's basically being a Bears fan. Every season, even the seasons like 2018, Sean, when they went 12-4. What was the record?
12-4. I thought they that 13-3. Or yeah, they were 13-3.
Maybe they were, but even in 2018, like even towards the end of the season, after they already piled up 9 or 10 wins, I still wasn't super confident in the Bears to be like a deep playoff run. Mitch Trubisky quarterback. Matt Nagy is the coach. I mean, that's just the Bears. This is the Bears. This is who they've been since I was born. It's just there's never any a strong confidence in the Chicago. And it's Chicago sports in general. To be honest with you, it's Bears, Blackhawks, Bulls, Cubs. It's all of them. It's
Chicago
sports.
Sox.
Certainly the White Sox.
You know what? Unfortunately, I was born in this town because it's to the point where I really hate being a fan of these teams, man. Because ownership doesn't get it. They don't understand it, and the people who suffer are people like me. And Scotty, you heard me last night. I lost my shit last night again, and I'm going to try and just knock it off because I have to accept stupidity and overwhelmingly incompetent football on the lakefront. It just is what it is, and I can't expect anything to change because, but ladies and gentlemen, we've got our predictions there. We are running up against it today. We got about 40 minutes left. So we're going to get into some fantasy football. But before we do, we want to one more time go over our wonderful sponsor, River Street Tavern, on November 27th. Excuse me. We'll be having their Black
Here,
Wednesday.
real quick, Sean, do you mind if I, real quick, Kyle's just end this conversation because I don't want to keep talking about Jaden Reed. Like I said, once again, first of all, Jordan Addison hasn't played every game of the season. Second of all, Sam Darnold is quarterback. So all we can do is go off last year where they both played the entire season, right? So here you go, Kyle. Last year, Jaden Reed, Green Bay Packers in 23 had 970 air yards last year. 970 air yards. Last year in 2023, Jordan Addison had 1,347 air yards in 17 games. They played the same amount of games, and he almost doubled.
Close.
What?
What was your number?
Pretty close, dude. It's 900 to 1,300. He had 400 more yards, air yards.
Sorry, I thought you said 1,000.
That's like playing 3 extra games on the schedule, Sean. It's not close at all. But yeah, I mean, first of all, Kyle, you're referencing the last 6 games, and once again, Jordan Addison hasn't played every game, and you're talking about with Sam Darnold. I mean, if you put both those guys on the same team with the same a good quarterback, yeah, Jordan Addison is going to have those 50, 60-yard touchdown catches where he's catching the ball in the end zone, not catching it 30 yards downfield and then running another 30 yards. Jordan Addison is a great shot. Is Jordan Addison not a great receiver? That was a great pick for them.
I think he's pretty damn good.
Really good pick for the Minnesota Vikings. That guy's been nothing but a stud since he got in the NFL. And like I just said, he had 400 more yards of area. I like Jaden Reed. I don't just like Jaden Reed. I think Jaden Reed just.
I agree with you 100%. It's my coping mechanism too. Because we have to embrace each other and talk it out, man. We're tortured souls.
Yeah. I mean, Darius Lockhart, he says right here, with all the negative stats, we are 2 fluke plays from being 6-4. But Darius, once again, I'll say this again. The guy who is responsible for those 2 fluke plays is still in charge of the Chicago. He's still the coach of the Chicago Bears. They will not fire him. So until he gets fired, you're going to see a lot more of this. A lot more of it.
I love your passion. Really quick.
Yeah, Kyle, I love your optimism, man. But I mean,
let's pay some bills. River Street Tavern.
Reed being better than Addison.
Pretty face there
that's
next
50-50.
Wednesday. For Black Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, they're gonna have a late night DJ from 9 to 12. They're gonna have these street tacos, and I'm gonna tell you, I love their street tacos, guys. But their street nachos are the bomb. I love them. They are so freaking good. Kyle will be working. So get out there, have a good time. I'm going to be out Tuesday for Kansas Duke, so I'm going to have my head on a pillow Wednesday. I don't go out with all the goofballs on Wednesday night, the day before Thanksgiving. I gave up on that as a young kid. But nonetheless, December 16th, a host for us. Thank you, River Street Tavern will host our first outing as for Chicago Sports. Brando will be there. Dustin will be there. Kyle will be there, and I will be there. It's a Monday nighter. Hopefully, we're talking about a sweep of the Minnesota Vikings. We're going to have some awesome giveaways, raising money for Bears Cares, Bears Charities, helping out the less fortunate around the holiday season. We're going to have this awesome Dan Hampton. It looks like he's about to sack a Packer quarterback there. We have this phenomenal catch from DJ Moore. Autograph on there. Kevin Butler, our Super Bowl champion kicker. Butthead in this beautiful framed and matted. All the pictures will be framed on that day, so you won't be walking away with a picture. We're also going to have some other prizes. One of our buddies, Zach, Big Fudge Breaks, always donates some stuff. He's a very generous individual. I believe he's going to be given a football or something with some Bears autographs. So come out, enjoy our company, and worst case scenario, the Bears lose, but we'll get to have some drinks, hang out, and console each other for another disappointing Chicago Bears game, if that were to happen.
Yeah, well, hopefully not, right? I mean, You hope that Thomas Brown finds something here and the Caleb Williams continues to develop and get better and the Bears can start winning games. I mean, it's easy to say like, oh, you look at the rest of the schedule and there's not a win on the schedule for the Bears, but that all depends on Caleb Williams, right, guys? I mean, we talked about this. How many times did you hear people say before the season, the Bears are going to be 15-2 and they're going to win the Super Bowl? And I'm like, whoa, guys, as good as Caleb Williams is, he's a rookie quarterback and you're going to see a lot of rookie struggles. Yeah, and by the way, their offensive line still sucks. And everything we talked about is turning fruition. Caleb Williams has struggled. He's a rookie. He's going to have rookie struggles. He's holding onto the ball too long. He's missing wide open receivers. The Bears' offensive line sucks. It's not good. We talked about it. We talked about it for the season. They're not a good offensive line. They're anywhere from the middle of the pack to 20, 22, 23. And then on top of that, they're not healthy. They're never healthy. Tevin Jenkins has missed time again this year. Braxton Jones missed his first game. Darnell Wright missed his first game. I mean, we talked about the same thing every year. If the Bears want to be a good competitive football team next year, you need to address the offensive line and get a play caller who will not screw up every single game. Dude, Sean, 1 in 68 million? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You couldn't make that. John, come on. That's insane. 1 in 68 million chance of losing all 6 of those games. That's insane.
We're not making this up. This came from DK.
That's insane.
I mean,
that's
this came
insane.
From yeah,
1 in 68 million. I mean, if you're Ryan Poles or George McCaskey and that scrolls across your computer, how you not like, all right, get Pat Eberflus in here now, right now. I want to talk to him right now. That should have been like that. A stat like that should be an immediate termination. Immediate. 1 in 68 million.
I mean, look at the games we were winning, dude. 24-10, 28-7, 26-14. The Lions game was probably the worst because we lost that game in under 4 minutes to go.
Yeah. Well, the Browns game wasn't much better. The Browns scored a bunch of points real quick too. They scored with like 3 minutes left too. They scored a couple of points.
That was the old famous Justin Jones covering.
Here, Sean, let's put our conversation with Kyle Harris to rest. Who's better, DJ Moore, Jaden Reed, or Jordan Addison?
Dude, DJ Moore for me.
Who's better, Keenan Allen, Jaden Reed, or Jordan Addison in their prime?
Oh, Keenan Allen in his prime.
Who's going to be better? Who's going to be the best in their prime? Rome Odunze, Jaden Reed, or Jordan Addison?
I mean, Rome looks really good, man.
Yeah, Sean, who's better, Cole Kmet or Tucker Kraft?
Hey, Cole Kmet.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Kyle, good. Not a good outlook for the Packers.
That was cheating. And here, you guys won the game fair and square. We could never get it back. But a flag should have been thrown on that play, plain and simple. You can't get under the center like that. It was an illegal freaking play. We'll give it to the Packers because the Bears just find a way to fumble over everything they do. But that should have been that's not a biased Bears fan. That's an actual fact. I mean,
I think he's talking about the receiver conversation. I think Kyle's about to say Jaden Reed is better than Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, or DJ Moore. Which if he says that, then I'm not going to.
Hey, Slick, I'm with you 100%, man. We are the laughing stock, and these guys have made us that way. But hopefully, hopefully, our guy can get it back for us. I'm trying. This guy can get it back for us and bring a little awesomeness to the Chicago Bears, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, either way, Sean, even if he was the best offense coordinator in the world, this is going to be work in progress. I mean, they have a terrible offensive line 100%. And they have a rookie quarterback. It's going to be work in progress. The Bears need to start to find it like they did last week, which you have to give all the credit in the world to Thomas Brown. You have to start to develop a game plan around the deficiencies of this offensive line, right? At some point, you have to start working around them. So I think that's what he did last week.
That's exactly what he did.
I think that's exactly what he did.
Screaming why Shane Waldron's not doing this.
And Sean, even if DeAndre Swift doesn't play in this game, you still want to see Roschon Johnson run the ball 30 times, right? I do. I certainly do.
And that's what I was saying. The way he married the pass and run game together and made it work on an even plane is all we've asked for all season. And I think Waldron had that one time.
Yeah, so, Sean, do you know how many times the Bears passed the ball last week?
I think it was can't remember off the top of my head.
31. You know how many times the Bears ran the ball last week?
It was 30. It was 31, 30, something like that, right?
It was no, you're talking about Bears running backs running the ball. The Bears passed the ball 31 times last week. If you include Caleb Williams' design runs, they ran the ball 34 times last week. So they ran more than they passed. That is certainly going to be the winning recipe for the Chicago Bears for the rest of the year. And then on defense, like I said, guys, you have to limit big plays. You cannot, like Dustin said last week. I mean, what was Jordan Love's average yards per pass last week? It was like insane. It was, 13 completions for 261 yards. You can't do that again. You can't let these teams. You can't let the teams average 27 yards a reception, or you're not going to win the game. And especially when you're playing Justin.
I promise you this: if the Bears get pressure on Sam Darnold will give us his game.
Oh, he's going to give us a pick. There's no doubt about it. Sam Darnold's going to get you can almost guarantee every single week that the Bears are going to take the ball away at least once. I mean, it's become a basically guarantee that the Bears are going to take the ball away at least once.
I don't mind Zach Taylor. I really don't. Slick Sophistication says Zach Taylor might be an option. What do you think about Zach and maybe keeping Thomas Brown as an OC? Here, for me, real quick, Slick, I want to see him do this for more than just one game. I want to see how he builds. He's got a bunch of good teams to put a good resume against over the next 7 games. So I just want to see him continue. I'm very happy with what happened last Sunday. No, let's just see it continue to grow.
Well, and Sean, to be honest with you, I like the comment sophistication, but at the same time, if you hire a new coach, like say Zach Taylor, you can't force an offensive coordinator. You can't be like, hey, you can have the job, Zach Taylor, but you only if you keep Thomas Brown as your offense. You can't do that. If you're going to hire a new coach, he needs to bring in his whole staff. And I'm sorry, as good as Thomas Brown is, and I'm sure he's probably a very nice guy. If they bring a new coach in here, Thomas Brown is not going to be the offensive coordinator of Chicago Bears. I mean, he can apply for the job. Yeah, he can apply for the job, and they'll probably give him an interview. But Sean, when coordinators, if it's not an old head coach, if it's a coordinator, is brought elevated to a head coach, they always bring assistants that were working underneath them because they don't really know anybody else. They've never been a head coach. They don't know how many positions they have to hire, all that. So they usually always bring their friends along with them. If they hire a guy like Ben Johnson, you're going to see somebody on the Detroit Lions staff be his offensive coordinator for sure. Yeah. Somebody on the Detroit Lions staff will be promoted to the Bears offensive coordinator.
I think his assistant will probably end up being he'll probably bring his assistant with him. Ben Johnson saying, here, guys, I'll be perfectly honest. I'm not even going to talk about Ben Johnson anymore because I know the Chicago Bears aren't going to get him. I just know it.
Careful. I read an article today. It was released today. It was from a sports writer, NFL sports writer. I forgot who it is. I'll find the reference later. But he talked about 8 coaches he thinks are going to 8 people he thinks are going to be head coaches next year and where they're going. And this article came out today. He wrote this today, and he said he believes that the Bears are going to spend as much money as they possibly can on a head coach to make sure that Caleb Williams succeeds going forward. And he believes that Ben Johnson is going to be the Bears head coach.
Well, 100%. I will tell you this, and I should have put a favorite on this article, but I read an article that earlier this week that said if Zach Taylor is let go, that Ben Johnson would be the favorite to go to Cincinnati. I don't know if that's truth or not. It's all speculation right now. It's all speculation.
Well, it was weird. There was a lot of interesting pair-up matches. They had Bill Belichick going to the Giants. They had Mike Vrabel taking over for the Browns because he said Kevin Stefanski would probably get fired. I mean, it was all the descriptions in which after he wrote which coaches would go where, they all made sense. They 100% all made sense. Like,
oh.
Bill Belichick to the Giants makes a lot of sense. Of sense.
Antmass isn't sold on Ben Johnson here. He says Ben Johnson has a perfect storm team. The team he goes to won't be winning anything, not the Bears. So are you saying that you're not sold on Ben Johnson and what he's done and turned that offense and turned Jerry Goff into what everyone said was a bum into what is kind of a winner? Not kind of a winner. He's 9-1,
Well, and Sean, how many games did they win last year? The Lions.
If Mike McCarthy comes here, I will not be a Chicago Bears fan anymore.
Sean, the Lions won how many games last year, and they didn't even really have a number 2 receiver. Jameson Williams did not play like a number 2 receiver last year, and the Lions still went to the NFC Championship game. They might be the only team in the NFL that didn't have a number 2 receiver.
Darius is with Antmass too. I mean, these guys are not on the Ben Johnson chain, and you know what? That's okay. I ask Antmass and Darius to chime in and say, who would be if you had to pick, I know there's a long way to go, just speaking hypothetically, who would be your guys' choice right now? Who Darius and Antmass, who would you guys take if it wasn't Ben Johnson? Just curious. Because I know there's a lot of good options out there. Bobby Slowick, Cohen from Tampa Bay. I know there's a lot of people that other people like. And I know we're drawn to Ben Johnson because we get to watch Detroit and see everything he's done there. So,
well, he's also he's also the NFL general consensus best available
I agree.
head coach available. That's everybody in the world's talking about that. That's not just us Bears fans who are like, oh, we play Detroit twice a year. We get to see Ben Johnson. We want him. If you go look at the free agency coaching rankings on any website in the world, they all have Ben Johnson number one. I mean, there are plenty of teams in the NFL that would love to have Ben Johnson start as a rookie head coach for their franchise. I mean, the problem with Flores, man, is there's too much negative about Brian Flores. There's so much negative stuff said about Brian Flores. Like he was abusive, mentally abusive to his players. He sued the NFL for diversity rights after he got fired from the Dolphins or the Dolphins. I mean, it's just, if you hire, I like Brian Flores. I think he's a good coach, but how much drama is going to come with him? And if the stories are true, if Tua's being honest and he was walking up to Tua in the locker room and go, "You suck, you're never going to amount to anything, you shouldn't be the quarterback here," that is not a good way to run an organization. I don't care what, it doesn't have to be football. It could be a restaurant. It could be any organization in the world. Telling your employees they suck and they're not going to do a good job, that's not a good way to motivate employees. And you know what? Maybe they do suck and they're not going to do a good job. Then Brian, you got to fire them or cut them. You don't just sit there and degrade them and tell them they're terrible human being. Not going to help you.
Slick sophistication. Bobby Slowick is very high on my list, and I know some people are down on him because the Texans haven't looked the same. But I don't know if people are really watching the Texans because that offensive line might be worse than the Bears. And they lost Nico Collins. They lost Stephon Diggs. I mean, C.J. Stroud's left with nobody. He was left with nothing. He's dumping the ball off constantly to Joe Mixon. So I like Bobby Slowick. To me, I would be happy with Bobby Slowick. He's definitely up on my list of coaches to consider. The Chicago Bears, and he has ties to Chicago.
John, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I would like. I know it ultimately doesn't matter, guys, as long as it's a good smart coach who wins football games. But I like to see a young coach, man. I like these teams. I mean, you see like Mike Tomlin. How long has he been in Pittsburgh now? 16 years.
Yeah,
that's because he got hired when he was 32 years old. How long has Sean McVay been with L.A., the Rams?
Oh, he's only been there like 5, 6 years, 7 years, something like that. It hasn't been too long.
Yeah, I mean, and how long could he be there? How long could he still, if he wanted to coach the Rams for the rest of his life, how long could, I mean, he could be there for another 20 years. He's like 30, he's like 40 years old, dude.
Well, Bobby Slowick's only 37. So
yeah, I don't know anything about Bobby Slowick. I'm fine with Bobby Slowick being the option for the Chicago Bears, or at least I'm bringing him in for an interview. You guys, what I'd like to see the Bears do is bring these guys in for interviews and see which one they like and which one they believe is the most intelligent and which one convinces them that they're going to get the most out of Caleb Williams. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you need to bring a coach here that's going to be paired well with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is the most important thing on the Chicago Bears going forward. Nothing else. At the end of the day, the only thing that truly, truly, truly matters, even if you traded somebody like DJ Moore, you can go draft another receiver to replace him. Caleb, finding a quarterback in this league is not easy. We've watched the Bears try to do it for the last 50 years. They finally found a guy who could be a good franchise quarterback for this team for years to come. You have to find a coach that complements him. That should be the goal for the Chicago Bears. A coach that complements Caleb Williams, a coach that can get the most out of Caleb Williams. That should be the goal for the Chicago. I want a Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, a type of coach where wide receivers and tight ends are schemed open, and almost anybody in the world could go play quarterback in that scheme because they're so good at making it easy on the quarterback. If Brock Purdy played for the Bears, guys, he would be absolutely atrocious, terrible. He'd be one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. The reason he looks as good as he does is because Kyle Shanahan and that quarterback-friendly system. I want that type of system implemented in Chicago so that the offense cannot screw anything up. They can't screw it up. There's no way to screw it up. There's just too many wide open players to be a bad football team.
And Kellen Moore, Darius says Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore is an interesting one. He's another young cat. I think he's 36, 37, 38, somewhere right in there. Where's he at? Is he Dallas OC right now? Kellen Moore?
Yeah, but I think he's still in Dallas. Yeah, I don't think he moved in the offseason.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think he's still there. You know what? Again, I'm with you, Kyle. I want somebody young that's inventive, creative, someone that's going to be taking over this team for a long time. I would love to have a Mike in here, you know. So let's see. Slick said, I'm scared of Poles picking the next coach with no faith in him at all. I don't have any faith. You know, we are so conditioned to being losers that we just expect failure when the Bears make a move. And that's what sucks. And we need to find somebody that can break that because I honestly, that's the way I feel. Kyle, I'm pretty sure you feel this way. You just know whatever they do coming into this offseason, they're going to fuck it up. I don't know what to say.
Well,
They
and it's kind of surprises me when people say that. People keeps telling me, they're like, whatever the Bears do, they're going to screw it up. Whatever the Bears are going to do, they're going to screw it up. I mean, but Sean, I'll say this again, guys, about Ben Johnson.
Worse than Philly? You sure?
I'll say this again about Ben Johnson. If every single expert in the world has Ben Johnson as the number one coaching candidate in the NFL, not Bears writers, not Bears experts,
right.
NFL writers and NFL experts are like, Ben Johnson is going to be a good coach wherever he goes, then the only way the Bears would screw that up is to do the opposite of what everybody else is telling them would be the right move to do. So if people keep saying to me, I think the Bears will screw it up, then you guys have to want Ben Johnson. Because that is the rest of the NFL world telling the Bears what to do, just like they did with Caleb Williams. Hey, Bears, take Caleb Williams number 1 overall. He's the best quarterback in this class. He's going to be the best quarterback you guys have ever had. If those same people are like, hey, Bears, hire Ben Johnson to be your head coach. You cannot screw this up. Hire Ben Johnson. He's going to be a good coach. You're going to be a good organization with a smart man at the helm. He's innovative. He's intelligent. He's hardworking. He's a good leader of men. Hire him to be your coach. And the Bears are like, what? The rest of the world wants us to hire Ben Johnson? Let's hire Mike McCarthy. That would be the Bears screwing it up. That would be screwing it up. That would be screwing it up. The Bears hiring Ben Johnson would not be screwing it up. That would not be screwing it up. That would be doing what everybody in the world thinks is the general consensus, smartest thing to do in Ryan Pohl's situation. Go hire Ben Johnson.
And Kyle, I've been very outspoken about Pohl's leaving at the end of the year as well. I'm willing, if Pohl's lures Ben Johnson in, to give him another crack. I just hope his drafts get better and his free agent signings get better. That's all I hope.
I'll tell you this.
That's all I hope.
Sean, I don't know what their plan is at head coach. I know they're going to fire Matt Eberflus. That's about all I know. And none of us know what they're going to do at head coach. Nobody knows if they're going to go offense, defense, old, young, nobody, experience, a rookie coach. Nobody knows. Nobody's any idea. But I will say this. The Bears are what have to be, correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, unless the Bengals, Taylor gets fired, the Bears have to be the most desirable team to coach. I mean, dude, DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift, Caleb Williams, Keenan Allen, Trevon Dexter, Montez Sweat, Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, TJ Edwards, Kevin Byard. I mean, if there's a guy in the NFL looking to go to a place and coach and succeed immediately so that he can retain his job for years to come, why would you not want to coach Chicago Bears? In the back of everybody's head, they should be thinking, all I got to do when I get to Chicago is sign a couple more offensive linemen, and I'm going to be a winning coach in Chicago. I'm going to win football games in Chicago. All I have to do is get a couple more offensive linemen, and I'm going to be a winning coach for that organization, right?
It's usually what they do, Kyle. The opposite. And Darius, just to your point, were you saying when Brian Daboll was in Buffalo that he was the hottest coach and the guy that everyone should hire?
I still don't believe that he's one of the worst coaches in the NFL. Brian Daboll. I think he's got the short end of the stick.
I agree 100%.
Here's Kyle, to Kyle's point right here. The smart thing to do for Bears organization is the exact opposite of what you think they should do. Well, Kyle, we all thought, and everybody in the world thought they should draft Caleb Williams. Was that dumb? Should they have done the exact opposite of that? Because I'm pretty sure Caleb Williams was the right pick, and I'm pretty sure he's going to beat the shit out of the Packers for a long time. So,
ladies and gentlemen, we got about 15 minutes or so. You want to run over some quick fantasy stuff really quick?
Yeah. I mean,
ladies and gentlemen, we might run out. I got some nuggets and tidbits for you guys. And a couple. I run over my smash plays that I have for wide receiver. Guys, if you don't have Jackson Smith, you're looking for a trade. Jackson Smith and Njigba over his last 3 games, 31 targets, 23 grabs, 359 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not to mention, there's only been 2 players higher over the last month, fantasy points per week. Jamar Chase at 31, T. Higgins at 29.8, Jackson Smith Njigba has been 29.4. That's his average. Get this guy in your lineup. Ladd McConkey is another one. Baltimore is allowing the most fantasy points to wide receivers. Get this guy in your lineup. A couple guys lower your expectations on. Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp. The only reason I'm saying that is because my friends, the Philadelphia Eagles, have really turned this defense around. Philly's allowed the fewest receiving yards per game for fantasy points, both to the perimeter and the slot receivers, respectively.
John, have you seen Mitchell's numbers against the number one opponent receiver?
Who's that?
The number one corner for the Eagles. Have you seen his numbers against?
No, I haven't.
The best receiver on the opposing team. He's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. Whoever he ends up covering against the Rams is not. I don't think he's gonna have a good day because nobody's had a good day against him yet. Nobody. So whether it be Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, they're in trouble.
And Cooper DeJean has come on very well.
Wow, that draft, once again, the Eagles have amazing draft again. And the Eagles are becoming a very, very dangerous team in the NFL. And we could start talking about maybe the Eagles end up playing the Lions in the NFC Championship. That's probably what's
I think it's going to be the Eagles and the Lions in the NFC Championship.
I don't. People keep saying in the comments here, we've heard it, we've seen it on TV, the Lions are going to beat everybody. The Lions are going to beat anybody. The Lions. That Eagles-Lions game would be a very good game, Sean. That would be a very, very, very fun game to watch. I would love to watch the NFC Championship if it's Eagles and Lions.
Me too.
Especially if A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith can stay healthy and Saquon Barkley continues to do what he's doing. That is a very, very good football team. So everybody out there who thinks the Lions would just run over the Eagles like it's nothing.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be when A.J. Brown is playing his best. Eagles are a dangerous, dangerous football.
And they got Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, and everyone can't forget about Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley.
Here you go. Thank you, Derek. So your great minds think alike, buddy.
Talk about the best offseason addition, man. Saquon Barkley is amazing. Well, I mean, they're not all Barkley. A.J. Brown might have something to say about that. It's Devontae Smith as well. And Dallas Goedert serviceable tight end. He's not as good as I thought he was going to be when he first got to the NFL. But
who, Dallas Goedert?
Yeah.
Dallas Goedert.
He's still a good tight end.
You got any receivers you want to?
Yes, I started them. Sean, you took one of them right out of my mouth. Ladd McConkey is playing Baltimore. They're 32 versus position. Last week, Ladd McConkey, who played the Cincinnati Bengals, were 19th against the position. So not the worst in the NFL against the position. Last week, he had 6 receptions for 123 yards. He is clearly becoming Justin Herbert's go-to guy. He's clearly his security blanket. He's kind of reminds me of like that Cooper Kupp style receiver, good route runner, that Amon-Ra St. Brown, good route runner, that type of receiver. I think Ladd McConkey's going to end up being a very good player in the NFL, and I think it started last week, and it's only going to get better from here. Another guy I'd say sticking to your starting lineups is Josh Downs versus Detroit. Detroit's secondaries were 25th versus receivers this season in fantasy. Last week, Josh Downs played the second best secondary against wide receivers in fantasy, and he had 5 receptions for 84 yards and a touchdown. So what is he going to do against the 25th best? And he should have a very good game. 2 guys I say sit. I know a lot of people love Jerry Jeudy after what he did last week. I think he ended up with like some 43 fantasy points or something like that. He had a huge game, absolutely went off. But Pittsburgh Steelers are a different game. That's a different game, man. I'd say for me personally, if you have a bunch of options on your team, Jerry Jeudy for me is a sit versus Pittsburgh. That's all I have for wide receiver, Sean. I didn't really dive too deep into fantasy this week.
I was going to say really quick, I had since Jameis Winston has taken over, Tillman has been wide receiver number 8, Jeudy wide receiver 14. But I agree with Kyle. If you have to start him, put him in your flex because Pittsburgh is really good on all 3 levels of defense, man. And the one thing I will take away is it seems on Thursday night games the offense always seems to be a step ahead. The defense isn't as fresh on these Thursday night games, so maybe you'll catch one. I would still suggest starting David Njoku because I think he's matchup proof.
Well, Sean, there's always the exception of the rule. Like, guys, when we tell you this stuff, we're just telling you this is we're playing the odds. The odds of Jerry Jeudy going for 150 yards and a touchdown, whatever he did last week, against Pittsburgh, who's number 8 against wide receivers in fantasy, is not very high. I mean, can Jerry Jeudy end up with 4 catches for 64 yards? Sure. But if you're deciding between Jerry Jeudy, Ladd McConkey, or Josh Downs, I would play the other 2 over him. You guys, obviously, when we do these start-up sit-ems, we're never saying like, hey, start Josh Downs over Justin Jefferson. Like the guys that you guys drafted in the first 3 rounds, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, these guys, AJ Brown, these guys should be in your lineup every single week and should never, ever, ever leave your lineup. I'm talking about like if you're banged up on injuries or bye weeks, and you're just looking for a deep flex or somebody who may be available still even on the waiver wire, Jerry Jeudy, if he's there, I pick him up, sure, but don't play him this week against Pittsburgh. For me personally, I would not play him against Pittsburgh. I would find somebody like Josh Downs, Thad McConkey, somebody like one of those guys. Even what's his name? Trey Palmer on the Chargers.
Josh Palmer on
Josh Palmer, yeah. He's playing Baltimore 32 versus the position.
Yep. Quentin Johnson.
He's another guy. He's another guy I would consider picking up. Two of the three of those guys are going to have good games, right? Because Baltimore is giving up like 400 passing yards a game. Yeah. Somebody has to catch the ball.
Justin Herbert has kind of turned it around too. Like he's.
Back. Sean, should we go to? Let's go to quarterbacks. That's your.
Want to go quarterbacks?
Yep, Justin Herbert is my start of the week against Baltimore, who's ranked 30th against quarterbacks in fantasy. You guys, through the first 7 weeks of the season, Justin Herbert threw 6 passing touchdowns. The first 7 weeks of the season. Sean, guess how many touchdowns he's scored total in the last 4 weeks?
Who are we talking about again? Sorry.
Justin Herbert. First 7 weeks of the season, 6 touchdowns. Last 4 weeks?
I think he's had like 12.
8 touchdowns. So the first 7 weeks of the season, he had 6. The last 4 weeks, he's had 8. So Justin Herbert is obviously getting comfortable in that offense, that scheme that Jim Harbaugh is running over there. The team looks much better. Thad McConkey is getting comfortable. Quentin Johnson is starting to look like a good receiver in the NFL. I think Justin Herbert, as long as he has good matchups going forward, whenever he has a good matchup, Justin Herbert might be a guy you can start almost every week going forward. And I'm not saying once again that he's better than Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson. What I'm saying is if you're really hurting for a quarterback, Justin Herbert would not be your worst option, especially this week against Baltimore, who's hemorrhaging passing yards to their opposing teams. Another QB start this week if you're really, 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 really desperate, if you really have to dive deep and you're in like a 14-man league and there's nothing left on the waiver wire. Tommy DeVito versus Tampa Bay at home. Tampa Bay is 32 versus quarterbacks in fantasy this year. So they are dead last against quarterbacks in fantasy football. Dead last. And if you guys go look at the last 5-6 games, you'll see why they're dead last against quarterbacks. I mean, everybody who plays. So Sean, Kirk Cousins had two weeks this year over 40 fantasy points. You know what it was against?
No.
Tampa Bay and Tampa Bay.
Oh, so, you know what? Okay. I'll give it to you.
Every team that plays Tampa Bay every quarterback that plays them is throwing for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Go look at the numbers. I mean, they are hemorrhaging yards to quarterbacks. Hemorrhaging. They're the worst. What?
No, I'm listening.
Are you looking at the stats right now? You look like you're looking at the stats.
I'm looking at my next quarterback.
Yeah, so Sean, for me, for quarterbacks, that's it. I mean, I guess my sits of the week would be Anthony Richardson and Jameis Winston, but you guys, honestly, you should be sitting those guys most weeks. Anthony Richardson's playing Detroit, which is 3rd against the position, and I'm not buying into what Anthony Richardson did last week against the Jets. I don't think the Jets are a very good football team. Detroit is. And then Jameis Winston's playing Pittsburgh, who's number 2 versus the position. We just talked about it. Pittsburgh's a very good defense, very well-coached team with Mike Tomlin, and Jameis Winston is very up and down. He's a boomer bust player, and he usually busts when he's playing good defenses. He's playing one of the best in the NFL. I would not have either of those guys in my starting lineup if I were you guys. But Sean, go ahead. You got quarterback.
I'm doing this in our big money league. I'm streaming Geno Smith this week versus the Arizona Cardinals, and I do understand Arizona has been better against the quarterbacks over the past couple of weeks, but he has passing, rushing abilities. He's been over 25 points or 24 points, I should say, as I'm looking at it 6 times this year. He is got an 81.4 offensive grade. It ties him for 9th among the 38 NFL quarterbacks with at least 230 offensive snaps. PFF scores and schedules suggests that Seattle will score 24 points this weekend. So if you're looking for a guy, I had to look for a guy. I picked up Geno Smith. Arizona's going to give it up. It's a division battle. He ranks 14th in rushing attempts, and he's 7th in yards per rushing attempt at 5.5. And he's 6th in explosive run plays. He's had 12, including 1 to seal the game against the Niners last week. So if you need a streamer deep, go get Geno Smith. My other guy is going to be Bo Nix. He's playing Las Vegas. If I really have to go into it, Las Vegas sucks at everything on defense. They're in the bottom half of
they just suck at everything, Sean. You don't have to clarify offense or defense.
Don't forget about your Bo Nix, boys. But I'm also, if I'm lowering expectations, my lower expectations are going to be on Matthew Stafford, and the guy who bailed me out last week, who Kyle just touched on, would be Jameis Winston if you have to start him for any kind of reason. I actually would not start Jameis Winston this week, but
God,
I
no.
know with 6 teams on a bye, it gets a little tough. So you get stuck in these situations, especially like the other league I'm in, where people have 4 quarterbacks on their bench for some god awful reason. But, I'll switch to running backs. I don't have. Actually, I do have a couple. I like Brian Robinson Jr. versus Dallas, and 2 running backs in the same game. I like Stevenson versus Miami and Achane on the other side of the ball versus New England. My favorite play of the week against the New York Football Giants is going to be my boy Bucky Irvin. He's ranked 22nd this week. Guys, I think he's going to be up around that top 10 range. I really, really do. They're using White more as a receiver. He's getting the carries, and he is slashing and dashing. He is really good at football. I really, really like him. My lower expectations are everybody's surprise, and I believe the 6th overall running back right now, Chuba Hubbard versus Kansas City. Kansas City just does not give up yards on the ground. And my other one would be Tony Pollard versus the Houston Texans. Who do you got on the wide receiver side? I agree, Matt, 100%, man. He is an absolute beast. And if you haven't checked him out in Denver, dude, watch him play. He is very fun.
I like Bo Nix a lot.
Yeah.
He's and Matt, a buddy of mine who comes to River Street, Matt is a Broncos fan. So him and I actually talked about this, but this was before Bo Nix was playing. He asked me before Bo Nix was playing well. This was early in the season when Bo Nix was struggling. He said, do you like Bo Nix? I said, yeah, I think Bo Nix is going to be a very good player. I think he actually kind of reminds me of a poor man's Josh Allen, man. He can run the ball and he can throw the ball. He can do both. And he's smart, and he's paired up with a good coach there in Denver. I actually like almost the entire quarterback draft class this year, man. I still think Michael Penix has potential to be very good. I think Bo Nix is going to be good. I think Drake May is going to be serviceable to good. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be a quarterback in the NFL. I think Caleb Williams is going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. This draft class, if we look at it in 5, 6, 7 years down the road, this might be a historical draft class for quarterbacks. You might be talking about how this was one of the best draft classes of all time.
And really quick, just so you guys know, next year, get in with us early on our fantasy preview, because my rookie quarterback, the guy, my sleeper of the year, and Kyle can back me up on this, was Bo Nix. I told everyone, don't sleep on this guy. 5-year quarterback. I just loved his intangibles at Oregon. I love winners, and he's a winner. Plain and simple.
I like Bo Nix. I'd still rather have Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams, but I think
for sure,
going to be very good
for
player.
Sure. But Denver's in good hands. Hands.
And they didn't have an option of Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams, so they made the right pick. Like Bo Nix was all that was left for them, so they made the right pick. I think they were okay with him.
My other half of my family is in Inglewood, Colorado, so I got a lot of Denver Bronco fans in my family.
Well, the reason that Matt's a huge fan of the Broncos is there's absolutely no reason. He just picked them one day when he was a kid. So. All right, guys. Now, here's the Buccaneers. This is what they've shown real quick, saying Tommy DeVito, if you're literally desperate for a quarterback, is a good start against Tampa Bay. This is the Buccaneers' last 6 games. 353 yards and 2 touchdowns allowed to opposing quarterback, 291 yards and 3 touchdowns, 276 yards and 4 touchdowns, 281 and 5 touchdowns, 509 yards and 4 touchdowns. Those are their last 5. There was one game in there that they didn't have. Spencer Rattler had 243 yards and a touchdown. Spencer Rattler. Every other quarterback that's played them in the last 6 weeks has absolutely destroyed them. Sean, that means in the last 6 weeks they've given up, let's see. They've given up 19 passing touchdowns in the last 6 weeks. 19 passing touchdowns.
You're not going to like my end here then.
And then, Tampa Bay. I got you. Running back, Sean. Like I said, I always try to dive deep for running backs. The starts, the guys I'm comfortable flexing this week, they certainly wouldn't start over any of the studs in the NFL like Barkley or Henry or anything like that. But if you're really, really desperate and you're really looking for somebody, Audric Estime versus the Las Vegas Raiders is a very sneaky play because
love Estime.
Yeah, if you look at his playing time in recent weeks, it's only gone up and up and up. And you know what? He didn't have a great game last week, but they weren't playing the Las Vegas Raiders. If he gets those same 10, 12 touches he had this week against the Raiders, there's a potential he could turn that into 40, 50 yards and a touchdown. So he can get you 10, 11, 12 fantasy points if absolutely necessary. I'm not saying I would love Audric Estime in my lineup, but if you're really desperate and you have 3 running backs on bye or something like that, it's not the worst option in the world. Another guy who I think is going to have a good week is Kareem Hunt. I don't believe that Isaiah Pacheco is going to play 100% this week. Even if he does play, well, he might not play at all. But if he does play, I don't think he's going to be back for every single snap. So I think Kareem Hunt is going to, and Carolina, as we know, Sean, is 32 versus the position. They're the worst in the NFL against running backs. There was a 3 or 4 week stretch where they gave up 3 touchdowns a game to running backs. If Kareem Hunt is the sole ball carrier in this game, he's going to absolutely destroy them. But even if he is paired up with Isaiah Pacheco, because once again, I don't think Isaiah Pacheco is going to come in and play 100% of the snaps. I still think Kareem Hunt manages to score a touchdown in this game against Carolina, who's just hemorrhages touchdowns to running backs. My 2 sits of the week, Sean. People are going to start to think I'm a Pittsburgh fan, but I do not like Nick Chubb against Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think that's a good matchup for them. I don't think it's a good matchup for Nick Chubb. And I still don't think Nick Chubb is 100% healthy because he's not touching the ball as much as he normally would. And then another guy I don't like starting this week, Sean, is Najee Harris versus the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are ranked 7th versus the position. They're not a good football team, but they're not terrible at stopping the run. And I think Najee Harris is a very inconsistent player. I just don't think he's not a guy I like in my lineup. I would never draft him.
If I can piggyback off of 2 things you said. Number one, off of that, I love Jaylen Warren as a flex option this week.
Yeah, because he catches the ball.
Yeah. He has a prop right now of over 55.5. Guys, his last 4 weeks, 68, 95, 59, 57. I think he's going to hit that number. It's my favorite bet on Thursday Night Football. I would jump on it, pair it with a couple other things. Now, just remember, before you start going all crazy with passing and stuff in this game and wide receivers, they're saying it's going to be pretty nasty for this game tomorrow weather-wise. So before you start getting into bets and start looking into things, and I'll see if I can find a couple ones and throw them up on the 4 Stars site, just check that weather report, because what we're getting here tomorrow, I believe, is going to extend across the Midwest. So there's going to be some nasty weather there tomorrow. The other thing,
Sean, I don't think you even have to check that. I think FanDuel and DraftKings, I'm pretty sure, don't they give you the weather?
They do, but it always changes. I've watched the weather for work, so I'm going to watch the meteorologist reports.
But Sean, where do you think they're getting it from a meteorologist. I don't think these guys in Vegas are just making it up. I mean, they're getting it from meteorologists. I think when you make your bet, I know for sure FanDuel, when you make your bet, they tell you what the weather is supposed to be sunny or cold or windy or rainy. So it's just always, every single bet you make in football, always check the weather, because you can't, if they're saying gusts of 60-mile-per-hour winds, I'm not taking the quarterback to throw for 400 yards. I'm not picking each team to score 4 field goals. I can tell you that. Always check the weather for every game you're gambling on.
And I want to tell you really quick on Isaiah Pacheco. I took a little excerpt from Andy Reid today, and this could also be coach talk. He said that he indicated earlier Wednesday that he was not ready to commit to bringing Pacheco back, who does remain on IR. He said he is not committing to bringing him back against the Panthers. So just watch that, because I knew Kyle was going to pick Kareem Hunt, so I left him off my list. But he's one of my favorite plays this week. I love Kareem Hunt this week.
Dude, if Isaiah Pacheco doesn't play, Kareem Hunt might end up with 50 fantasy points. I mean, you guys, the Carolina Panthers run defense is absolutely just atrocious. It's awful, and it has been for the last 3 years.
And before we get off of running backs, and this is a really sad thing for me, Kyren Williams' opportunity share since week 7 has gone down 87, 85, 96, 87. Last week it was 71. Since week 9, Kyren Williams is averaging 9.1 fantasy points per game. He's ranked as the 31st running back during that stretch. I'm not giving up on this kid. Everyone goes through a slump, but just calm down. Hopefully Kyren will get back. I need to ride this dude to a championship, so I hope he bounces back, for the love of Christ. It has not been pretty over the past couple of weeks for Kyren Williams. Tight ends. Did I do any tight ends this week? I believe I did. My sleeper tight end of the week is going to be none other than your boy, Kyle. I'm trying to find him here, and I can't seem to find my tight end notes.
Will Disley?
No, Will Disley is one of them. I do have Disley down. Where did I do with my tight? Oh, here we go. Jontavion Sanders. He's going up against Kansas City. You know what tight ends do against Kansas City? They eat. So
and you know what Carolina is going to do against the Chiefs? Play from behind and throw the ball a lot. Guaranteed fact. They will. The third and fourth quarter, the Panthers will be throwing the ball a ton, because they are going to be playing from behind.
I agree, Mr. Harper. And thanks for joining us, man. I think you are a first time one. So welcome to the show, man. What's that?
He's been here before.
Has he?
Jedi has been with us more than a few times. What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, we really appreciate you guys. Are the real stars of the show, so we appreciate you guys spending a little time with us on your Wednesday. I'm sure you got 100 better things to do, but Kyle did touch on Will Disley is my other guy. This guy's coming on. He's had 12 targets, 9 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown over the past couple of weeks. If you need someone, he's got Baltimore, who ranks 22nd against tight ends, followed by Atlanta, who ranks 26th against tight ends, followed by Kansas City, who ranks 23rd against tight ends, and then he's got Tampa Bay, who ranks 29th against tight ends. Will Disley, my friends, especially if you have a guy like George Kittle, who is a phenomenal football player but cannot stay on the gosh darn field, you might want to pick up Will Disley this week and throw him in your roster, or throw him on your roster. And if you have to use them, you might be pleasantly surprised, because as we just touched on, Justin Herbert has turned back into somewhat of a passer, and he looks really good, and Will Disley looks really good. And I think Kyle picked him up and started him this week, and he did really well for him. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, he did very well. He was actually Sean, I picked up 3 guys this week in waivers in my Yahoo League, and they were my 3 top scorers. Jameson Winston, Elijah Moore, and Will Disley were my top scorers this week. I picked all those guys up a day before the Sunday, the day before my matchup. Those are the 3 guys I picked up on the waiver wire, and they were my 3 top scorers.
And I'll tell you this, Kyle and I were slapping hands, because I did the same. I picked up Jameis Winston last week when I had Kyler Murray on a bye, and man, he did us well.
Yeah, almost 400 yards passing. Another guy, guys, if you're in your fantasy league, if you're still in it, if you think you stand a chance to win, if you're definitely going to make the playoffs, and you think you stand a chance to win your league, a guy that you should buy low on now. If there's a team that's out of it and they're willing to part ways with Mike Evans, and your trade deadline is still open, trade for Mike Evans. I think he has the potential, without Chris Godwin there, I think he has the potential to be the number 1 fantasy receiver for the rest of the season. We said this 5 weeks ago about Bijan Robinson. We said he was going to be the number 1 running back going forward for the rest of the season. You know who the number 1 running back in the NFL is in fantasy for the last 5 weeks? Bijan Robinson. Yeah, that's right. So we said earlier.
Really quick, Kyle Harris, are those the tight ends on your roster? I hope if they are, Jesus, you smoked the league. But Jonnu Smith is another one who is coming on late in the season.
Oh, he's saying who to start. I mean, Kyle, I would always.
Who to start? Sorry.
McBride would always be in my lineup.
McBride, 100%.
I don't see how you don't start McBride. McBride is quietly becoming not just one of the best tight ends in the NFL. He's becoming one of the best players in the NFL. He's a beast. Yeah. The guy is an absolute beast. He is Kyler Murray's go-to guy, man. And that's his security blanket.
Also, ladies and gentlemen, on the preseason show, I said that about Trey McBride. Pay attention. Come back early.
I've given you your props for that. I thought Sam Laporta was going to be better than Trey McBride. Sean kept saying Trey McBride's going to be number 1 in the NFL. He's going to be better than Sam Laporta. Sean has not been wrong. I mean, Sam Laporta has been one of the most disappointing players in NFL history.
Dude,
it's
rough.
Know, he's rough.
And speaking of that, really quick, the Lions, my friends, if you have some Colts tight ends and you're looking for a flyer, I know Anthony Richardson is the guy, but the Lions have given up the 4th touchdowns to tight ends. Tight ends that score in 4 of their last 6 games against them, and they have 6 TDs given up at the position, which is most in the league. So if you need a flyer, it's tough. This week, next week, and 14 all have 6 buys or something like that. This week is brutal. I'm losing half my team against Scotty Angel. So,
well, Sean, I'm right there with you. In Yahoo, I am going to be missing Bijan Robinson and James Cook. That's my team. Those are my boys. Those are the guys who win me weeks, and they're both gone. So I'm in big trouble. But it's only 1 week. Hopefully, you can kind of work around it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a blast having everyone here. I know Kyle has an appointment to get to, so we got to bounce out for this week. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, just before I get out of here, in case there's some new people in the chat, next Wednesday, you'll have Kyle at River Street for Black Wednesday. We've got a late night taco menu. As I stated earlier, the street nachos are the bomb. Go hang out with Kyle. I'll have a DJ from 9 to midnight, and then go enjoy Turkey Day Hopefully, we're talking about a Chicago Bears victory on that day. December 16th, 4 Stars, Chicago Sport, Brando, Dustin, Kyle, and I will all be at River Street Tavern in East Dundee for our first sponsored party or get together with the fans. We're going to be raising money for Bears charity, Bears Care. It'll be on. We'll have the flyer up hopefully next week. We'll be giving away some awesome pictures. Just raising money, man. Trying to do our part. We'd love to meet y'all. Come on out. Come see us. We want to see you. We'd like to put some faces to the text. So come on out. Come and enjoy it with us, man. It was a fun show. Peace to everyone that was in there. Jebediah, Kyle, Harris, Darius,
Ant Mass, Sophistication, Matt, all you guys, man. Brandon, I'm sure Dustin Toomd. Yeah, Dustin was here. Scott,
Matt,
Scott,
hey, you guys are the real stars of the show, man.
Liz, Breaking News, Bruce, as always here with us. Breaking News, our most loyal listener. And then Scott, we appreciate you coming in every time.
Always,
all you guys, man. It's so much easier.
Scott's making a run at Bruce for loyal watcher, man.
And you know what? It's always fun to converse with you guys. It's always fun to go back and forth, especially with Kyle Harris, because we all know he's a Packers fan. It's always fun to argue with Packers fans every once in a while. But appreciate everybody. Yeah, appreciate
Kyle,
everybody.
for you.
Anything you want to get out there before we wrap up?
Shit, fuck Green Bay.
All right.
Yeah. All right, Kyle, we love you, man. Thank you for spending the Wednesday with us. Kyle has the Bears winning 21-19. I had the Bears winning 2017. Bear down until next week. Don't forget, we have tomorrow night, 11:30, the Bear Minimum with Dustin and Brando. Tune in, burn the midnight oil with those guys. I'd love to see y'all.
Well, Sean, are you going to do your bets this week?
I am. I'll throw the bets up. They'll probably be up sometime on Saturday. I'm going to throw them up. I tried to look for some today. There just wasn't enough out there. I just don't feel comfortable. They're getting a little bit later. But I will tell you, I really do love Jaylen Warren over 55 rushing and receiving yards in that Thursday night football game tomorrow. So I'll try and see if I can pair that with something. I know Brandon and Kyle have been doing really well on Thursdays. Maybe they can pop in, send me a text or something, and I'll add Kyle's picks and Brando's picks to the sheet for Cash 'em and Pass 'em. But look for that, and I'll attach everybody on it. Thank you guys again. We love y'all. Thank you so much. Bear down, everybody.